Welcome to Hartford's Municipal Update. We have the City Administrator for the City of Hartford here today to answer some questions. As of late, welcome, Steve.
Thank you.
The properties in Hartford have been all reassessed.
Yeah.
And they, meaning the owners, had the opportunity to come into the City Hall, meet with the assessors and say, hey, I don't agree with this. Can we change something? And for the most part, that went very smooth.
Yeah, very smooth. Yeah. And for doing a total community reval, I would say we had absolutely no one show up for the board of review. Oh, I'm sorry, no one showed up for the board of review. We had quite a few people show up for open book, but board of review, no one showed up for. So that tells them, okay, I understand it now better, and
Good.
it's fine.
So I had asked you to come in today. We were going to talk about a varied amount of things inside the budget, but I just really would like to focus on, for our viewers, understanding how property taxes are calculated and when and how the mill rate is set as far as the city budget and the taxes involved in that.
Yeah.
And so you were able to give me some great documentation here, and we will be bringing up some PowerPoint presentations, but for now we're just going to discuss how they're calculated. So let's start, I guess, from the beginning and what makes up your property taxes.
Yeah, so we always get everyone coming in and yelling and screaming at us and saying, why is my property taxes going up? And we remind them that there's 5 actual property taxes involved there. There is the Washington County property tax, and there's the which is 14%. Then there's the city property tax, which is 38%. The Hartford Joint 1 school district taxes, which is 30%. The Hartford Union High School taxes, which are 15% of your total tax, and then the Moraine Park Technical College, which is 4%. So again, we are only responsible for one of the 5 different taxes you get, 38% as it would be of the total tax. So we can only answer questions regarding why the city portion of taxes go up or down.
And how are the taxes calculated?
Yeah, so it's very simple. Your property taxes are based on a simple equation of X times Y equals Z. So Z is your total tax. X is what your assessed value of your property is, and we'll kind of dig further into that. And then Y is the mill rate. So the mill rate is based on, we'll talk more about how the mill rate's done. But so you take the value of your property times the existing mill rate, which is effective for everybody, and then that determines what your total tax is.
And just so our viewers know, that mill rate percentage changes every year. It's not always at 1%. That's just the explanation of what the mill actually does. It just depends upon what the city budget is for that year. Am I right on that?
The mill rate usually does not change a whole lot, and I'll explain kind of why that is.
Okay.
But it changed greatly this year, more than it has in a long period of time. It went down by 22%, which everyone goes, oh good, mill rate went down 22%. It does not mean your taxes went down 22%, the mill rate went down 22%. And so that's based on a different equation, in which we'll go to in a little bit. But but year to year, if that goes up 1%, 2%, or down 1% or 2%, that's usually what happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the city taxes are calculated dealing with the assessed value.
Yeah. So your assessed value, of course, again, is the value based on the market rate of your property with a snapshot as of January 1st of that year. So let's just say they take a look at your house, and you have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house built in 1990. I'm making this up. She doesn't have that. I don't know if you have it or not. So 3-bedroom, 2-bath house built in 1990. It's a 2-story house. It's got an exposed basement, which was fully furnished. It has a 1/4-acre lot, 1/2-acre lot. And then what they do, and then they look through, usually when you do a walkthrough, they can actually look at the amenities inside the house and look at quality. So if you have a Formica top for all of your tabletops versus a quartz or a granite top, that's going to have a different value than it does someone who's got granite tops all over their house, right? Because it costs more, the value is higher. So there's things that they look at. So they look at comparable properties within a region, so not just the city of Hartford, but Slinger and things around here. And they'll compare those houses and they put it into a calculation, say, okay, what other houses do we have that are 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, built in 1990 with the same quality of improvements? And they'll look at, again, as I said, size of the property. A 1,500 square foot house versus a 3,000 square foot house. The size of the property. Is it a quarter acre? Is it a half acre? Is it a third acre? What is it? How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? That will make a difference. Amenities we talked about. Maybe you have a walkout basement with it completely finished. The quality we talked a little bit about. Again, the quality of the amenities inside. And of course the age of the house is going to be a big deal, because if you built it in 1950, there's a lot of things that have obviously started to age within that house.
Correct. So then moving into how the city taxes are calculated, we're going to talk about the Y component, which is the mill rate.
Yeah, so the mill rate is based on a total approved levy divided by the total assessed value of all property. So let's talk about levy. Levy is the total amount of money, and I'm going to say this very selfishly, that I get to spend, okay, as a city administrator. My budget can only be based on the levy, okay? Now, the levy does not necessarily, we're not allowed by state law to increase the levy more than the growth of the community.
Okay.
So let me give you a very small example. Your neighborhood has 6 houses on it and 2 vacant lots. This year, 2 houses get built. The growth is just those 2 houses, right? Because there's already 6 houses there. So it's only based on the growth of the total community. So if we added 40 houses, which is pretty average for us, 40 houses, it's a good year. Maybe a couple commercial properties, like we did this year, and maybe 1 industrial property. All that equates to the growth of your community, net new construction. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we look at that, and our growth can only go up by state side because of levy limit restraints, only by that growth. So along with, there's another add or additional debt. Okay, so if my debt on our capital items are street projects, building projects, and vehicles. Okay, those are our primary things. A new plow, a new fire truck, a new firehouse, a new, whatever it would be. These are all items that we borrow for. We borrow for a 10-year period of time, and that annual debt payment is what we're talking about. So again, levy really doesn't go up much. So when I hear people say, "Oh, my taxes went up 40%," what are they doing with 40% more money?
Yeah.
The thing is, I'm not able to keep 40% more money. I'm able to only keep 2%, 3% more than I got the year before. That's what levy limits forces you to do. Levy limits was put in by the state legislature to prevent taxes from going up. Okay, and it's done that. It's been in existence since 2008. It has done that. Some people will argue that levy limits actually restrains local government, which it does, and I will argue the fact also, and there's a ton of proof that says that. So if a community doesn't grow, but yet our costs continue to rise, no matter what those costs are, it restrains us from being able to expand with the growth of the community. Okay. So anyways, but kind of going a long way there on levy limits. So again, just because maybe your personal taxes went up a little bit doesn't mean I get to keep that. It just means somebody else's taxes probably went down.
Right.
And you'll see that on Facebook. I know people are saying, well, that's funny because my taxes went down $200.
Right.
So it all depends upon how that reassessment went. So the levy, again, the total taxes collected by the city can not be increased more than the construction of the net new construction of the community, plus debt payment. So an example, our levy in 2020 was $8.02 million. In 2021, 8.13. In 2022, that's same, 8.13, probably a couple decimal points after that. Levy 2023 is 8.5. So it's went up dramatically in 2023, primarily because of debt payment. Our debt payment went dramatically up by 5.74%. So again, going back to that, operationally, what I get to spend on all the operations of the city, fire department, police department, so public safety, streets, parks, rec, everything that goes on in the city only goes up like literally 1.6 to 5% maximum.
Right, and that is what the levy is spent on, and I think explaining that to our viewers is hopefully gonna give them some insight of where that's going.
Yeah.
And I know you've been saying that all along, but if they know that it's the operational services for the city where you live
Yeah,
and should have those services, that is really where that money categorically is being spent as far as percentages of the levy.
yeah. So again, when we look at that $8.5 million, we talked about that the total levy was. And keep in mind, 8.5 is not our total budget. That's just the amount that we tax for.
Okay.
Other items have other means to get reimbursed. So our fire department gets reimbursed through other things. Our EMS service gets reimbursed through through the costs of doing business. Our parks, your registration fees to use park things, fines and forfeitures, tickets, things like that. Again, those are revenue sources. The state also is a major revenue source for us.
Okay.
Through state shared revenue and expenditure restraint payments. Unfortunately, the state isn't always consistent in that payment, it being growing with the times. So unfortunately, what the state has paid us has gone down, our costs go up, which means taxes to fill in that gap will continue to rise. But again, I go back, of the 8.5 million that we levy for, that we pay taxes on, 3.2 of that is debt, 5.3 is all other operational services. So public safety, streets and engineering, parks and rec, and everything else.
Okay, and then the 6% that you have for people that are asking, what is that? Because it's a smaller percentage. Everything else, meaning your.
Yeah, it could be, so that could be planning department, finance department, clerk's department, every other department that we have that is not filled under public safety, streets and engineering, and parks, park and rec.
Okay. And calculating the city taxes with the reevaluations that were done, and that spreads the tax burden based on the current value of property.
Yeah.
And just kind of explaining to our viewers more in depth about what happened. And I see that you have residential and commercial and industrial all were up.
Yeah, so anytime you do a reval, and for those that don't know, revals, you do it anytime that the equalized value, which is comparable value to the same thing in a different city, compared to the assessed value, falls or rises 10% up or down. So if our assessed value is 10% below what the equalized value is, we have to do a reval. In our situation, it was. If it would ever get above 10% or more, we have to do a reval again. So the market dictates that, okay? Now recently, obviously, as you know, your house probably dramatically increased in value, because if you try to sell your house now, it was worth a lot more today than it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago, even like 2008 when the big crash happened. So those, every year it didn't go up steadily, but all of a sudden out of the blue it goes up tremendously, and you're like, what happened, right? And so we haven't done a reval since 2014. So that's 8 years. In 8 years, a lot of things have happened in the market.
Right.
So if you're selling today, this is the time to sell to get the maximum that you would have gotten compared to 8 years ago. So when you look at the total city, again, residential went up 40.88%. That's the largest amount. Commercial went up 16.68%. That's pretty moderate. It's not a ton. Industrial went up 20.22%. And the overall was 35%. So in the letter that you received from our appraiser, which was accurate appraisals, they're out of Appleton area. And anyways, when you got the letter, it said, look at what your house went up compared to the average.
Right.
And if it went higher than the average, guess what? Your taxes are about to probably going to go up a little bit. If it went lower than the average, it probably is going to go down a little bit. So for all those people who are complaining, oh my gosh, my taxes went up $200 just in the city alone. If they ask around, they could probably find somebody whose taxes went down 200%. That's just how that pendulum swings. So it really has to do with how long it's been since the last time your house was revaled.
Yep.
And it's different because for the majority of people, it hasn't been since 2014. But if you did a refinance, they did a reval. If you added something to your house and got a building permit, which is the legal thing to do, you got a reval, right? Well, Sally put on a new bedroom in the basement. Okay, so you get a reval notice. So it depends upon how long it was since that. In my other example, when was the last time you bought a 12-pack of soda, and how much versus today?
I think that explaining that in those terms is important to the viewer.
Yeah. So as soon as our value again had gotten below 90% of the equalized versus the equalized value, again, we have to, by state law, you get 1 year, they slap your hand. The second year, they slap it a little harder. Third year, they impose a mandatory reval. So we used money that we got from the ARPA, the COVID money, some people call it, and spent the money on the reval. Revals are not cheap. That's why communities don't do them that often. It's about $250,000 for us to do a reval. And that's a walk around. Difference than a walk around versus a walk through. Walk through is a much better way to do it, but again, laws have changed in the state of Wisconsin, which does not make that as effective as it used to be.
Okay.
So if you don't like the way your house is evaled, contact your state representative and tell them to reverse the laws that they put into place over the last 10 years. That's my political campaign right there.
Okay.
But yeah, so, and again, anybody, as you mentioned earlier, if they had a question regarding their reval, they had the opportunity to contact, call, or stop in and talk with one of the members of Associated Appraisals. And if they had questions, and we had a ton of people come through here, and actually we did it right here in this room, in the council chambers. And of course, a lot of people had a chance to call, and a lot of people did, probably a couple hundred did. But after they're all said and done, they all kind of go, okay, I kind of understand it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and then, but if they still argued the fact, they could go to again, Board of Review.
Right.
Board of Review is 5 to 7 members of your community. They're not all staff members of the city. Matter of fact, there's only 1 or 2. One is elected official, one is a staff member. And then you are in what they call is a quasi-judicial system in which you present your case of why my house was way over assessed, and then the assessor's here to explain what are the comparables.
Right.
And anyways, then the Board of Review will review those 2 facts and then decide which one is closer to the truth or makes more sense. So again, everyone had the opportunity. We had absolutely no one show up. So.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming in and giving some information on how this is all calculated. I hope that our viewers can watch this interview along with the PowerPoint to get somewhat of a better understanding of how this is all calculated, how this all works. It's nothing new. This is how it is for a city. So.
It is, and like I said, all the questions come out when you do a reval.
Right.
And 10 years from now, they're going to forget about this,
Yeah.
and they're going to start calling again.
Yeah.
But again, you always have the opportunity to ask questions and call the city hall and ask questions, or you can call our assessor and just say, hey, it's in the middle of the year. I know it doesn't change my taxes for 2023, but can you tell me why this is or that is, or maybe I think you have a mistake. I actually think you think I have a 3-2, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, but I actually only have a 2-2. Can you come and check this out? And they will. They'll come back and they'll look at it. Yep, you're right. We'll change that in the program, and it'll recalculate what your assessed value is. So it's an ongoing thing. Every day you could do this. I would recommend it, but people have lives, but it's something you can do.
Good to know. Well, I appreciate you stopping in, and I'm looking forward to January when we can touch on some of the budget items for 2023.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Steve. To our viewers, as always, thank you for watching.